So if there are no requests, we'll start to set ourselves up for our practice in a seat. You're welcome to grab any props you like while we wait for everyone to join. So we may bring ourselves into a cross-legged position, and it might be that one foot in front of the other, or perhaps it's one leg on top of the other. Give yourself a moment just to feel through the wiggles, the wobbles. Find the seat that will be comfortable for you for the next few minutes. And as we situate ourselves, letting the eyes rest, noticing this inhale and this exhale. Welcoming yourself to the mat. Consider spinning both palms to face forward. Bringing some movement into the fingers, maybe the toes, maybe a very gentle nod of the head, just checking in. And let's bend that left elbow, spin the right palm down, press the heel of that left hand up in the air, reaching up through the fingers, just going back and forth. And letting that arm release back to the thighs, second arm rising, press up through the heel of the hand, mobilizing through the fingers, going back and forth through the wrist. And exhale, releasing. Invite the shoulders to roll. And then pause and go the other way. Rolling shoulders, second direction. And perhaps we tip forward, hands to the ground, or maybe onto some props, starting to give ourselves a little glide, a little shift, side to side. Tipping in, and then rolling back up. Consider if the hands were wide, we might move them a little closer together. If they were narrow, take them wider. And let's again ripple down, chin towards chest, rolling back up. And let's invite the hands behind the back, reversing the cross of the legs, second leg in front or on top. Wobble rock, sits bones back, spin palms forward. Inhale, take both arms high as we exhale, rotating, twisting over towards the right. Inhale, back through center, and exhale, second side. Inhale, center. Exhale, back to perhaps the right, that first side. Inhale through the middle. And exhale, second side. So this time we'll hold. We'll inhale through center. Exhale, finding comfortable twist. Maybe the chin is dipping. The head may be nodding. The body may sigh as we arrive. Inhale, let those fingers rise. And as we exhale, twisting second side. Perhaps chin towards chest, head may glide, nod. Inhale, back through the middle, thumbs to brow, thumbs to heart. Consider tipping forward. We may find blocks. We may find a little glide, a little shift, side to side. Chin towards chest, rippling, rolling back up. And we might again decide to adjust the precise location of the hands. But this time when we come down, we might tuck the chin into the chest, rippling forward, arching the back, creating some back bend on the rise up. So perhaps tented fingers, chin moving as though towards the belly button. Let the heart rise, coming all the way back up, tipping back, leaning back, reach out through the legs, give a little wiggle through the legs, and let the ankles mobilize. Circle ankles, circle, second direction. Let's gather the feet in. We might grab some blocks and give ourselves a boost to find our way up to stand. Feel free to clear the mat of anything you may have been sitting on. Bend toes, spread toes wide. And we may just find a little shift side to side, bringing feet about hips distance apart, hips moving side to side. And then perhaps we're circling the hips. We might even bring bend in the knees. And let's reverse, circle hips, second direction. And then pause and consider a figure 8. And if that feels evasive, just stick with the circles. Reverse your 8. We'll make our way back to the middle, stepping the feet in, bend the fingers, spin the palms to face forward. Let the arms rise, let the gaze rise. And as we exhale, tipping, leaning into our forward bend. Please consider bending the knees as much as you need to if it helps with balance. Of course, take the feet a little wider apart. We may be nodding the head. We may stretch the jaw wide. Bend toes, put a little bend in the knees. Inhale, circle the arms all the way up. Thumbs to forehead, thumbs to heart. So if we're not at the top short edge of the mat, consider coming up to the top short edge of the mat. Palm spin to face forward. Inhale, circle the arms up in the air. And as we exhale, tipping in. We may be planting hands to the ground, walking the feet back, pedaling through the heels. We may tip the head a little side to side. We may begin to send both heels down towards the ground. Feeling the fullness of the breath, 360 degrees around the ribs. We may wiggle the feet a little further back, rock on forward, rocking through the toes, let the knees land, point the feet, elbows under the shoulders. We might find a little glide, tipping towards the right, tipping towards the left. Getting into front body. Next time we tip to the right, consider bending left knee. We might just bend the knee. We might find a little motion. We may try out ankle rotations, releasing. Find that drift side to side. Second knee bending, chin to the left. So right knee bending, chin is to the left, maybe circling the ankle. Releasing down. Let the brow come to the ground. Slide the hands back. Circle the shoulders. Circle second direction. Perhaps pressing into the palms. Let the chest rise. We may tip towards the left, bending that right knee. Send the leg back, lower down. We may press into the hand, tip to the right, bending left knee. Reach the leg back, release to the ground. We may roll up, pressing hips back towards heels, maybe take a block with you. Brow to the ground, brow possibly on a block. Take the knees wider as needed for ease of breath. Exploring the breath, perhaps rolling across the brow from side to side. We may find the middle and find a little nod, a little yes nod. We may draw circles. We may audibly sigh, letting go of the day, letting go of tension, wherever it may be, the jaw, the shoulders. And perhaps we find those blocks as we make our way up to blocks and knees or hands and knees if you prefer. Let's slide the right foot back, tucking the toes under, pitch back through that heel. So we're bringing a little more intensity to the back of the lower leg. And if we dropped into sway back, find a little more engagement. Let the leg rise, stepping right foot forward between the hands, sinking into our lunge. We may tuck the back toes, back leg may rise, finding a little forward and back motion. Let the hips lift a little higher, feeling the stretch in those back toes. So if the smallest toes are missing out, roll towards the little toe side of the foot for a moment, and then navigate that back foot forward. So we're standing back towards the top short edge of the mat, looking out. Exhale, chest to thighs. Let's inhale, rise halfway up, perhaps hands on blocks. Walking hands or blocks over to the right. Perhaps bending right knee, rolling left hip back, We'll bring it back to the middle, plant the hands, walk on back, down face dog. Head may nod. Pivoting heels out. Gliding into high plank. We might find that rock, that movement. We may come off the wrist, not necessarily either, just getting off the wrist, coming down onto the forearms, holding that forearm plank position. Let the knees land, point the feet, walking the elbows forward into Sphinx. Little movement side to side, take your time. Release the brow, plant the hands, heart rising, rolling back, child's pose. So we may tent the fingers, arms may be extended overhead. Hug the belly muscles in, rounding up, and we may find a little shift, glide side to side, right to left. Let the hands land, using your blocks, if you like, as arm extenders. So we'll gain a little more distance from the ground. Send that left leg back. Hug the belly muscles in. And then letting the leg rise, reaching that foot forward. So left leg forward, we're sinking into our lunge. Tuck the back toes, inviting the right knee, the back knee off the ground, maybe a little movement forward and back. We may roll towards the little toe side of the foot. The littlest toes are not touching down. Let the hips rise. If you need to shorten the distance, go ahead and slide that front foot in. Take as many steps as needed to bring that back foot forward, looking out. Exhaling, chest towards thighs. Perhaps nodding the head, pouring more of that tension from the shoulders, the neck, the ears, from the brow, from the crown of the head down into the ground. Inhale, let's rise halfway up, walking the blocks or the arms over towards the left, rolling right hip back. Let's bring it back to the top edge of the mat. Look up, find root. Put as much bend as you prefer in the knees. Root to rise. We'll come all the way up to stand. Thumbs to forehead, thumbs to heart. We'll keep right foot forward, stepping or reaching, left leg back, finding a higher lunge position. Take a moment, check in with those right toes. Are they clinching the ground? Check in with that front of the left hip, back leg. Do put the back knee down if you like. We may spin the palms forward. The arms may rise. We may roll the pinky sides of the hands in towards one another. Let the elbows bend and the hands find the bricks or the floor. We may slide the bricks back. We may slide that right foot back. We may even step the left foot in a little. Left heel pivoting over towards the right, toes spin. Perhaps rolling right hip back. We may decide to take our blocks down a little lower. Brow closer to the shin. Possibly sighing, releasing that tension. Perhaps stretching bottom jaw away from top jaw. Let's lunge bend back into that front knee. Move the hands or the blocks forward. Think about peeling that back heel up, and we're letting that front thigh warm up. So that right thigh, maybe we're already feeling it. Maybe we want to slide the foot a little further back. We're loading that right thigh, and we're raising the left leg up in the air. Perhaps we tap the fingers down to the ground, tipping in. We may find a little nod to the head. We may bend that left knee, tap the left knee to the right calf, and let the leg rise. We may tap the knee to the calf. We might touch those left toes down over to the right and let the leg rise. One more time, tapping with bent knees, maybe toes down. Maybe we go for that reach out to the right. Let the leg rise, bend the left knee, point the left knee out to the left, and cycle the left knee alongside the right. Let that left foot land. Inhale, rise halfway up. Perhaps we're rocking feet a little wider. Please keep breathing. Put a little bend in the knees. Take your time. Circle the arms up, thumbs to forehead, thumbs to heart. Touch the right toes behind the left. Put the left hand on the wall if you like. We may bend the right knee. We may hold on to the right foot, pointing the right knee down to the ground. Getting into the front of the right hip, we may be rolling right shoulder back. We may hold the foot with both hands. Letting that right knee rise up to the chest. Take the knee out to the side. We may have some bend in the left knee, so we're circling from the hip while standing on one leg, left leg. Ooh, and then reverse. Circle, second direction. Moving through that hip joint, release the foot, shift it out. Left foot forward, left toes fan wide. Right foot steps back. You can always release the knee. Back heel rising, find your balance. Perhaps palms forward, the arms may rise, rolling right hip forward. We may pivot the pinky sides of the hands in towards one another. At your own pace, letting the hands come low, maybe finding those blocks. We may step the right foot in. We may slide the left foot back. We may pivot right heel towards the left. Rolling left hip back. Neck is long. Give a little nod to the head. Perhaps stretch the jaw. Perhaps flutter the lips. We may slide that left foot back, shifting forward. Hands may shift forward. Use your blocks if you prefer. So we're taking a moment to bend into that left knee. We're getting light on the right foot. We're letting that left leg heat up. Right leg may rise, and we may decide to bring the hands or the fingertips down to the ground. And as we bend both knees, right knee may just gently tap behind the left. Right toes may hover, pointing back or out to the left. And that right leg may rise. We may bend that front knee, tapping the lower leg, maybe right toes land. We're letting things heat up. Let that left leg rise. Tapping, reaching right toes perhaps out towards the left. Palm on the foot may be down, may be grounded. We'll bring that leg high. Take that right knee out to the right. Right knee alongside the left. Let the left foot land beside the right. Tipping and finding your forward fold. Maybe a little nod of the head, circle of the head. On this side, let's go ahead. Bend both knees and take your time. If it's comfortable for your back, let the arms be heavy. Let yourself round up to standing, no hurry. Take your time arriving. We had the head lower than the heart. It may be warm. You might be a little lightheaded. Take extra breaths as needed. Left toes step back. Starting to bend into that left knee. We may hold onto the foot with one hand. We may hold the foot with both hands. Standing tall, rolling shoulders back. Hugging heel towards glute, getting into the front of the thigh. And as we release the foot, let that knee come forward and try out some hip circles, standing on one leg and reverse. Go the other way and release it. Let that foot come down. Shift it out. Bend toes, sink hips, bend knees. Spin palms to face forward. The arms may rise, tuck the ribs back. Exhale, forward fold. You may give a little nod of the head. Walk on back, find your down face dog position. Heels may pivot out moderately, muckle fingerprints to the ground. Roll on forward, finding that high plank or forearm plank. At your own rhythm, slowly, slowly, lower all the way down, point the feet. We may be rising up to Sphinx, finding those little shifts, the serpentine motion. We may tuck the ribs, float the pelvis, chin towards chest, hovering. And gradually, slowly lengthening forward, heart rising. And we may repeat, press down into the forearms. Pelvis may rise, we may tuck the toes, the knees may rise. Let the knees land, point the feet, slide forward back into Sphinx, brow to the ground, hands glide back, heart rising. Tuck the toes as the hips move towards the heels. Let the hips rise, right leg rising. Perhaps we drop left heel and bend right knee. We may mobilize the ankle. We may be drawing right knee towards the chest, stepping right foot forward between the hands, possibly pivoting that left heel towards the right back corner of the mat. Rooting to the little toe side of that back foot. So we're low, we're rising through the legs, slowly, slowly, finding our way up to Warrior One, Virabhadrasana One. Rolling, left hip forward, right hip back. We may bend the elbows, hands can stay on hips. We may weave the fingers together or grab a towel or a strap, extending the arms. We may slide right ribs, inside right thigh, taking bound arms up and overhead. We bending elbows, slowly, slowly rising back up, hands on hips. Consider peeling back, heel up, tap, tap, step as needed. Bring that left leg forward. So left leg is floating. We might just take a moment, find the balance. We may support the knee, shoulders over hips. We may cross left thigh on top of right thigh, both knees bending. Sitting on an imaginary stool, feel free to use a kickstand. Maybe you've got a block underneath the left toes, the toes that are hanging out to the side there. And as we rise back up, pull that knee in carefully, carefully. Start to tip forward, reaching that leg back. So we might drop the toes back down to the ground, find our way back up into Warrior One. Let the hands come down, stepping back, down face dog. We may tip lean, circle the head, nod the head. We may pivot the heels out. If your stance feels like it's slid or it's long, maybe step the feet in. Rooting through the right foot, letting left leg rise. We may bend left knee. We may drop right heel. We might find movement in that left ankle. Let's draw the left knee in towards the chest, stepping left foot forward between the hands. Please feel free to grab your blocks if you prefer. So that right heel may stay elevated. Possibly we're pivoting it over to the left, rooting to the little toe side of the foot, and we're getting very light on the hands. So chest is parallel to the floor, strong legs, rising up, find balance, hands maybe on the hips, fan the toes. The arms may rise, the gaze may rise. We may be bending elbows, hands can stay on hips, shoulders, elbows rolling back. Perhaps we're going for the bind. We might be reversing the cross of the thumbs. We may be extending the arms, sliding left ribs inside, left thigh, bound arms moving overhead. Rebending elbows, carefully, 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 bringing shoulders back up over hips. So we may just take a moment. Maybe we're tapping that right foot forward. And eventually bringing that right knee up to the chest. And we may just take a few moments to find balance. Maybe the left hand's coming to the wall. Drawing that right knee forward. We can stay here. We don't have to go further. Maybe we're twirling the ankle because it feels good. Take your time starting to bend that left knee. We're crossing the right thigh on top of the left. Finding that balance spot. Maybe we challenge it a little bit. Rising back up and reversing. So we're sending that right leg back. We're tipping the chest forward. Take your time. Sometimes that foot comes down heavy, especially if we turn to look back. Go ahead, plant the hands. Step on back, down, face down. Little shift side to side. Let's release down onto the knees and consider if you would like some knee padding. So we might be tucking something underneath, coming to hands and knees. And we may be swinging the left foot out to the left. So the toes could be pointed or tucked out to the left, whichever your body prefers. Let's slide that right leg back, planting left hand, right hand maybe to the hip, perhaps straight up to the ceiling. We might find a little movement through the fingers, through the wrists. We may take that right arm up and overhead, arm straight or elbow bending. We might make it a dynamic motion if that's what feels right in your body. Consider spinning that right hand back to the ground, and we might start to raise the right leg, possibly right arm as well. We may bend the knee like we did at standing and hug the heel to the glute, rolling the head of the shoulder back. We may extend the leg, pull the knee in towards the chest, pivot that back foot around as we step the left foot forward, and then fine tune it. So if you need to step that left foot a little bit further forward, please do. It's your right foot, sorry. So left hand to the ground, tuck the back toes, back knee may rise, and that right arm may cycle up in the air. We can put the back knee down at any point. We may decide to step that right foot back in front of the left foot so we're in side plank position. Perhaps top arm up and overhead. And we'll find our way maybe back to hands and knees, or perhaps back to a plank position. Knuckling fingerprints to the ground. We may wiggle the feet a little further back and consider releasing back down to the belly, pointing feet, planting hands, heart rising. And pressing back into child's pose. Now we may slide the hands in, and again, please feel free to adjust onto any knee cushioning that you prefer. Let's just check in with the wrists. So the load was on that left hand, but we might do both together on the sides of the ribs. Backs of the hands touching sides of the ribs. Maybe we just self-massage left hand, left forearm, moving into the palm, getting into that meaty thumb pad. We may decide to weave the fingers together, and press out through the fingers. Maybe we prefer hands on thighs. So second side, when you're ready, I'm going to spin around. Don't feel like you have to do that. We're just going to do all of that on our second side. So from hands and knees, make sure you've got a little space for that right foot. Swing the right foot out to the right and let the left leg slide long. So we may turn those right fingers out, left hand maybe on the hip or up in the air. Top arm may come alongside the ear. We may roll the ribs back. Maybe we're exploring, bending, extending the arm. And then perhaps bringing the hands down. And you could have hands on blocks, absolutely. And we may raise that back leg. We may be bending the knee and grabbing hold of the foot, hugging heel to glute, head of the shoulder rolling back. So just notice where the knee is. We're trying to keep it more or less in line with the hip rather than pointing the knee up to the ceiling. Let's extend the leg. We'll bend the knee in towards the chest. We're pivoting that right foot as we step the left foot forward. So just a gentle little pivot into that lunge position. And maybe we're not using a block at this point. We may be planting right hand, tucking back toes, raising back knee, and twisting to the left. And by all means, you can come back to the kneeling variation. You can stick with the twist. We might be stepping that front foot, that left foot in front of the right. Top arm maybe moving up and overhead. Release the hands down. Find your preferred version of plank or forearm plank. We may hover and hold. We might put a little bend in the elbows, wrap those elbows in. And gradually coming down to the ground. Brow to the ground, slide the hands back. Invite the heart to rise. Release back down to the belly. And we may bend both knees. Now, maybe you decide to land on one cheek and turn your head to see the screen. Just check in with your neck here. So all we're doing is possibly bending the knees. There doesn't have to be movement. Maybe we just point to flex the feet. We may twirl the ankles. What does your low back say? Maybe we're reaching back and tapping our heels. That can be it. Maybe we're grabbing our feet and pressing our feet into our hands, nose to center, chest rising. And gradually release down. If you did turn your head towards the screen, turn your head the other way now. So you're resting on the other cheek. We may give a little wobble rock to the hips. And the body may audibly sigh. Let go with the day. Let the hands, the heart may rise. Roll on back into your child's pose. Now from child's pose, consider rolling up to a seat. And again, you are welcome to make sure your knees are fully padded and you may want a little wrist release. What feels good to you, what feels right for you. Then let's take a moment and hold opposite forearms. And we might just have the forearms in line with the shoulders. But we may see if we have clearance if we were to slide our forearms over our head. Now, some of us may not. So it can have to do with the length of your upper arm. It can have to do with tightness in your shoulders. And just see what this feels like. So if this is a big challenge, maybe this is where we say we're not going to add more load to it, more body weight. If this feels just fine and we do want a little more challenge, we may weave the hands together, hover the elbows before the shoulders, and instead of letting the elbows turn straight out, hug them in like you're hugging. But don't really hold the block, it'll just drop in a moment, but like you're trying to hold the block between your elbows, not your hands, but between your elbows. Don't really try to do that right now. So we're hugging them in. There's a pretend block between your elbows. Forearms are pressing into an imaginary wall. Maybe you're at a wall, you could press into a real one. And then release that and let that go. So please feel free to repeat that. We might try that at hands and knees. So we may place those elbows. We may hug them towards one another, hug that imaginary block so the forearms don't slide towards the long edges of your mat. Tuck your toes and let the hips rise. So dolphin pose possibly, you might just want to stay hands and knees. So we're not overdoing it through the shoulders. And then gradually releasing back down. So again, you're welcome to stay on the padding, knee padding if you like. So pick an arm, we're going to do both. And slide that arm to the opposite side, and we may just go back and forth. Extend, draw the elbow back. We may extend and hold. And you might hold with the hand. You might like holding with the elbow. We may turn the chin in the same direction, give the head a little nod. Move back to center, and we'll try the same thing on the other side with or without the support of the other arm while we're moving. And eventually we're finding that hold point. And we may look in that direction. We may find a little nod of the head, maybe a tip lean of the head to find that perfect neck stretch. And then gradually finding our way back to the middle. Let those shoulders circle and go the other way. So let's find your padding, and maybe it's under your knees right now. So if your floor is very hard, your padding maybe doesn't need to be very thick at all for this. You might want to unfold your blanket if you're using one a little bit. And pick a side to come down on. So this is your side, your hip, the side of your hip, your side butt that's coming down to the ground, and the blanket's just there for extra cushion, extra padding. So as we come down, your arm might be your pillow, like your side lying in bed, curled up, or grab a block and let the block be your pillow. Make sure you've got a little room behind your back, room to move. Check in, how's the leg doing? And let's draw that top knee, whichever one it is. Again, we're going to do both. Draw it in towards the chest. And then press that foot forward. Reach out through the heel. Sneeze a little bit. Excuse me. And then sweep that heel backwards, backwards, backwards. This is where you want the space, but we're going to need to bend the knee, point the foot, and just let it be like a super slow motion bicycle this first, second time around. Press out through the heel. Sweep the leg back, noticing how it feels in your hip. Let the knee bend. Please feel free to repeat. This next time around, I'm going to hold. So we're sweeping the leg back. We may again reach back, grab the foot, rolling the head of the shoulder back. Notice where the knee is. So if the knee is pointing up towards the ceiling, try to bring it down like it's magnetically drawn to an imaginary block between the thighs, between the knees. And then pull that knee into the chest. Now, if you've got a strap nearby, feel free to use it. If it's kind of difficult to reach, I can see mine's back there, not easy to reach, but I'm not going to bother with it. We're pulling the knee into the chest and then inviting the leg to rise. So maybe we need to hold on to the leg somewhere, anywhere we can reach. Reaching up through the heel, reaching up through the leg. You need a toe point, go for a toe point. Maybe you're even holding your toes, the arms are long enough. But notice where the leg is. So if the leg's pulling into the chest, let go of the foot and move that leg back out a little bit wider. Now for fun, internally rotate the leg and then externally rotate it as we start to lower the leg to about the height of your hip. Internally, externally, internally, externally. And then let's repeat on the rise. So we're going back up. Lots of fun. And maybe one more time. Let's sweep that leg back. You might hit the done point like I did. Rolling head of the shoulder back. And releasing, we'll draw both knees into the chest. You're welcome to just spin over to the other side. I'm going to come on up and trade sides. So we may be bending the elbow again, find your cushion for your head. And we'll start to take that top knee into the chest. And then press out through the leg. And sweep the heel back, 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 back. Being careful not to kick anything, any furniture, walls, fur friends. Pull the knee into the chest. Press out through the foot. please feel free to keep repeating, but maybe we're going back into that hold. So we may be grabbing the foot, fine tuning where the knee is, rolling head of the shoulder back. And releasing, letting that leg draw forward. So we may be drawing, feel free to take another stroke, just work it out if you like, and then pull that thigh into the chest. And maybe we're holding the foot or somewhere on the leg. We're reaching that leg up, not necessarily pulling it towards the ear. So we might just have the hand on the thigh somewhere or kind of at the inner knee, pressing the leg away from the ear. Now, for some of us, balance might be a little tricky, can vary. And then we might start to find that internal, external rotation, that top hand may need to be a kickstand hand as we lower the legs. So it's not just the ankle is moving, it's coming along for the ride. It looks like the ankle's moving there, but the movement is coming from the hip. And we're trying to go back up while maintaining our balance. I'm finding balance a lot trickier on this. I'm definitely needing to use that kickstand hand. Takes a little added focus to keep the balance, keep the leg. Whew. And when you hit that fatigue point, whatever you need to do, maybe it's another sweep, maybe it's hugging it in, what helps you clear it. We'll pull both knees together, plant the top hand, and start to find our way back up to a seat. So we've tried this standing, we've tried this on our side with a little bit of balance, and now we took balance out of it. Mostly, it was still a bit of a balance challenge, possibly, on our side. Now let's try it sitting on a block. That said, your knee, your ankle might have other ideas. They may say this is not a great variation. You're welcome to come back to any of the other variations. So let's fold that right leg back. So we're pointing right foot, sitting up tall. And maybe it's all about the ankle. Maybe it's not too much of anything yet. So we may walk the hands back, keep the shin down, keep the knee down, top of the foot down, lift the hips, tuck the pelvis a little bit, and then put your seat, your butt cheeks back down on the block. Keeping that right shin down. So this might be a much larger sensation in the front of that right thigh. If you decide you want to lower it, remember that if you're on a block, it can be a big drop from that 4-inch block to the ground. So we might just substitute a skinny block for the 4-inch block. We might use a towel. Maybe we're bringing our bottom to the ground, but that actually diminish the sensation in the thigh and maybe put it somewhere like in the knee. And if that's the case, we may want to come back up. So it's not necessarily about getting lower. It's finding what your body needs, what works for you in this moment. Maybe you're coming all the way down to the ground, lying on your back and holding opposite elbows over your head. Let's start to rise back up. We'll need to untuck the seat. It's kind of an awkward squashed front body if we don't untuck. So we're untucking. It may be sustainable to stay here to keep that right leg as is. And we may hover that left leg, left foot. And again, if your strap is very accessible, mine almost is. I will grab it to demonstrate. We might put the strap around the foot, but maybe no strap, we hold behind the leg. We can raise the shin, try to find balance, shoulders over hips. Maybe we're walking the hand towards the ankle, hands towards the foot, shoulders back. Heron pose. And we'll slowly rebound the knee. Now, what would help you switch to the other side? So maybe we're up on a prop high enough where we just kind of slide that right foot out. I'll pivot around again. And then we tuck the left foot back. You might use your fingers to spread the toes. Where's the knee? How does the knee feel? Fine tune it, make little adjustments. Checking in with breath. This can be plenty, but maybe we're walking the hands back. Hips rise, so the pelvis tucks, we put the seat back down. And maybe the hands are moving a little bit further back. Body may sigh. Maybe a little nod of the head to help enhance that stretch through the front of the hip, down the front of the thigh. Maybe it's all about the inner thigh. I know for some of us it's the ankle, it's the top of the foot. Maybe you're going lower. Maybe it's just starting to get in there. So take your time. If you're just kind of arriving, it's getting good. Please know you can always stay a little while longer. So we may be walking those hands back in and untucking the seat. As we untuck the seat, strap or no strap, we'll start to float that right foot. Maybe we raise the leg, and if we're sinking into Slouchasana, which is very easy to do, see if we can notice, roll on to the sits bones. The leg does not have to extend fully straight. You can keep as much bend in the knee as you like. We may wobble up, get a little longer, bring a little more mindfulness into side bodies, shoulders away from the ears. And gradually releasing, letting that foot come down. And what's going to be the best way for you to move that leg out? So maybe it's not just sliding out. Maybe we need to shift it forward and step the foot forward and then come back to a seat. What will work for you? So consider if you'd like to use your block, or maybe you'd like to roll up your mat or a blanket underneath your heels for a squat. So we may come into a garland squat. Again, we could choose to keep the block or take it a little bit lower. So I'm going to stick with mirroring in this orientation. We may shift towards the right. We may peel that left heel up and extend the leg. We may lower down to a seat. For fun, whoop, we may push back up. We may just drop right down to that seat. Let's drop right knee out to the right. So just check in, maybe tip forward, send that left sits bone back. And then inviting a twist over to the right. We may hold on to the knee, maybe not. Let's move it back to the middle. We'll point that right knee back up towards the ceiling. So we might grab a block and sit up on the block. We might be tipping forward. Maybe we're bending that left leg to help it in, but maybe we're just hovering that leg. Maybe we help step it back into our squat position. We might find that little mosey through our squat. Widen one knee, tip to the little toe side of the foot. Head on over to the other side. Maybe we practice our weeding. You've been in your garden over the weekend. You get down low, reach out through the arms, and then let's shift on over to that left leg. Maybe we have a wedge. We have that rolled mat underneath the heel for support. For some of us, the heel may come to the ground. Maybe we hold on to the left knee to help us. Oh, if I hold that knee, can I extend my leg? And perhaps we sit with control. And perhaps we rise back up with control, hover the leg. Again, maybe we help it out. We'll come back down and let that knee start to tip out to the side. So we may slide that foot up and in, wobble. That right sits bone back. Take your time to find that twist. Body may sigh at any point. We may give it a little help, a little encouragement. Maybe we're holding on to the knee. And we'll slowly start to unwind. Now, if that's just not so much fun for you, please feel free to skip it, but we might be bending the knee, pointing the knee up in the air. Is that left leg gonna come up? Sometimes just looking at it like, oh, will it do it? Will it do it? We need to be able to kind of push down. You could grab a couple blocks, make your arms longer, push down into the blocks to get the hips up, and then maybe it's easier, especially if we bend the knee. Bring that foot back in, so we're in our squat. Please feel free to sit. Maybe you're doing the squat mosey. So you might stay in a squat. If you're enjoying the squat, if you have a balance ball, it can be really nice. You can sit up on the balance ball. You could just be in a cross-legged seat or in a chair. We may grab a strap, and of course it can be a pretend strap. Slide the hands wide and invite the arms to rise. We might have to adjust, try to find that center position. We may draw the arms back. How do the shoulders feel about that? We could go more narrow or wider. We may draw down, bending the elbows. Things in a mirror can be helpful, so we level it out. We tend to be a little lopsided and don't even realize it. Go ahead and let the arms rise back up. Let the arms cycle forward. So we may just be finding a seat again. You're welcome to stay within the squat, but you may want to come down to a seat instead. Take that left arm up and overhead. Try to pat yourself somewhere on the back, and we may hold on to the elbow, pressing the head back into the elbow. And then try it way at the right, holding on to right elbow. And let's take both hands behind the back, maybe holding wrists, forearms, maybe holding elbows, but how do the shoulders feel about that? So we might put the strap into play. So we may pat ourselves on the back with the left hand and grab the strap between the two hands. So the right arm may come behind the back. Watch out for hair. So you might be grabbing your shirt or the strap, tipping the head back into the elbow. Now, if the left elbow is high, we might add in a little lean to the right. We might round the back moderately. If we're already in a lot of rounding, we might try to rise up, lengthening. Slowly rise on up. So we're releasing that side. Maybe we roll through the shoulder, second side. So option just to hold the elbow. We might put the strap in both hands. So we may want to start with the top hand, right hand, and then extend left arm, palm back, bend the elbow, and then look for the strap on that other side. Head may be pressing back into the elbow. Ribs may tuck. We may find a little tip lean over to that second side. And we'll gradually find our way back up. Releasing the strap. Work it out through the shoulders. Perhaps movement in fingers. Chin may tuck. And letting ourselves slide on back, and you can continue to use any props that you'd like. Let's find that left knee. Point that left knee towards the top short edge of the mat, and the right knee may point out to the right. But perhaps we tuck the right toes and extend that right leg back. We may find a little wobble rock, grab your block and support your forehead. We may rock a little more weight towards left foot, so right hip moving down towards left foot. We may use that block to work any tension out of the brow that remains. You may find a little movement through the hips, just a little forward back motion to help go a little deeper if needed. And we'll rock on back towards the left hip, perhaps hands free. Bend that right knee, and we might raise the right leg, trading sides. So right knee pointing forward, left knee pinwheel position out to the side. Maybe we're starting to extend left leg back, tucking the toes. Take your time, use your hands as needed. So maybe back toes stay tucked. Maybe back foot is pointed, brow supported. Body may sigh. Can we slacken the jaw a little more? Full belly breath. Consider staying a while longer. We may be rocking to the right. We may be coming up hands free, bending that left knee, cycling that left leg back around. So perhaps we drop the feet, plant the feet, scoot the hips forward. We may grab a couple of blocks, place them over to the right side. Find your way onto your back body. Hug the knees into the chest. We may hold on to the knees, give the hips that little rock side to side, finding a push-pull motion through the knees. Maybe we're drawing figure eights, getting into the back of the hips, feeling the sacrum against the ground. We may go the other way. We may land the soles of the feet to the ground, hands on belly. We may press down into the feet, let the hips rise and shift just a little to the left. As we rock the knees into the chest, we may decide to build a wedge. We may support the feet, support the knees with the blocks. You might prefer to have the props between the ankles and the knees. We may press into the right elbow, scooch the right shoulder more right. Perhaps the arms unfurl. We may turn the head. We may prefer to bend the elbows. And let's gradually return to center. Press into the feet, sway the hips to the right. Maybe we're moving the props to the second side. Let the knees roll. We may tuck that left elbow, scooch the elbow more left. The arms may unfurl or holding, bending elbows, whichever feels right for you on this side. We'll slowly bring the knees back to center, press into the feet, level the hips. Perhaps heels wide, knees tipping in. Perhaps hands to the belly. Legs may slide long. Hands may drop to the side. We may give the legs a little rock. Softly sighing and settling into rest for these next few moments. Perhaps deepening the breath, returning movement to fingers, movement to toes. We may bend elbows, press down through the heels, reach up through the arms, and exhale, releasing. We may step each foot in, sway the hips to one side, curling up in a little ball, rolling to one side, supporting yourself back up to a seat. Rubbing the palms together, placing the hands to the belly, to the heart, sealing our practice with sound. Deep inhale through the nose. Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing this practice. Let me know if anyone has any questions.